When I returned to Australia from Japan, she had been close to a girl with whom she went to school. I was with someone I considered to be a good friend, but I wasn't in my group of friends with whom she sat in class or had lunch. I hadn't heard talk or seen some people in that group since I returned. I realized that this other girl and I had a lot more in common than I had thought initially. Maybe it was because I had changed a lot in Japan, or maybe because he had learned that being socially acceptable and popular was not important, because the people who make these judgments are not always morally correct. I didn't care who was my friend and who wasn't, but I cared about being true to myself, and I refused to change myself, adapt to other people. I felt like I'd figured out who I really was. It was when he lost everything he once considered important. The girl she had grown close to, she was Muslim, not that I thought about it at the time. One night we sat in the McDonald's, taking advantage of the free coffee refill offer, and we talked about religion, especially about the way we believed in God. She was the one who asked most of the questions about how I thought God it was. I enjoyed the discussion and felt that somehow it was making sense for her, with my Jenny's religion. When we got home, she took the 40 Qudsi hadiths and read them silently. Read some of them to me, and of course I was interested. I asked to borrow the books so I could sit down and read them, which I did. Reading the books was a little scary. For me, examples of Islam could be found in TV news and in books such as Princess and Not Without My Daughter. Surely, I thought, the hadiths were just the good part, but the bad part was there too. I moved to my university for the beginning of the semester and I could no longer get my friends' books. So I started looking on the internet. I had already found some Muslims on IRC, but I considered them my friends too, and I thought they would not tell me the truth about Islam. I thought they would only tell me the good parts. But I did some questions to them and, mashallah, they helped a lot. I remember asking a Muslim if he believed in angels. The angels were part of my Jenny's religion, and certainly did not believe that a Muslim I would admit to believing in the existence of angels. My limited understanding and ignorant of a Muslim man was the one who beat his wife, killed babies female, and was a terrorist in her spare time. That kind of person I couldn't believe in angels. I was shocked when he said, "Of course I believe in angels." From then on I was interested in knowing what else Muslims believed. I often think that initially I continued to read about Islam on the internet to prove it wrong. Always I was looking for that bad part. It was not possible for everyone to have a bad opinion of Islam if there was no reason. I had always found one bad or illogical part in all the religions about which I had read the respect. So why would Islam be any different? I remember finding a website of Islamic chats for the first time and expected to see women repressed only reading what men said. I hoped they would have no opinion. I was waiting for the typical Muslim girl that she had always felt sorry for. For my surprise, I saw girls happily chatting, expressing opinions. These Muslim girls were in some ways more liberated than me. My learning about Islam in the continued internet by means of chatting with many people and the impression of the content from multiple sites. The more I learned, the more scared I became. No, I told none of my friends that I was reading about Islam, not even to my best friend. At first it was because I didn't want them to keep telling me only the good parts, and then even when I realized that I wouldn't find the bad parts, I didn't want them to try to convert me to Islam. Wanted that this decision was made by myself, without pressure. This decision was not in fact a decision, no. I am often asked, what led you to the decision to become Muslim? But when something as clear and logical as Islam is put in its foreword, there is no choice. This does not make the decision to say the Shahada, the testimony of faith, easier. Many things held me back at first. At first, I didn't think I knew Islam enough, but it didn't matter because he knew he would never find anything illogical or bad. I started to give myself says that saying the Shahada is not the final step, but the first. Inshallah, by the will of Allah, I will continue to learn. Another thing that left me hesitant was to separate the word Islam from all the bad things with which I had associated. I always thought I couldn't be Muslim, and then learned that my Jenny's religion and beliefs, for example, of God being one, were in fact Islam was difficult at first. Islam brought it all together, it all made sense. For me, finding Islam was like bus travel. I had stopped and looked at all the stops along the way. I take a piece of them all and keep going with the journey. When I found Islam, I knew it was the last stop of my life. Long journey. In October 1997, my best friend went with me to say the Shahada at the Islamic Center in Melbourne. I was still scared at the time, but after one of my sisters explained it to me, the articles of faith, and I put a mental label next to each of them, I knew there was nothing to do but say it with my mouth. I still cry when I think of the moment when I said, "Yes, I will." Finally, I knocked down the wall that was holding me back. I repeated it in Arabic, after my sister. With the first word of it, I cried. It's a feeling I can't explain. My friend was sitting next to me, but a little behind me. I didn't notice at the time, but she was already crying. I felt a lot of power around me and in the words, but I felt very weak myself. Sometimes I think my family is asked if this is a phase I'm going through. Just like my other phases. I was even a vegetarian until my mother told me what dinner was that night, a roast. I still have a lot to learn, but one thing that I would like people to understand is that I know, Alhamdulillah, all the praise be to Allah, that Islam is a blessing to mankind. Much less you learn, inshallah, the more beauty you will see in Islam.